What's up and welcome to DIY Man. Today I want to show you 7 woodworking projects that have sold well for me in the past and videos that you can watch here on YouTube to help you build them. Sorry about that old table saw accident. So I hate to be a trend jacker, but you got to stick with things that sell, right? So the first thing I have for you today is cutting boards. Now, it seems really silly that these would sell well, but for some reason they are. And a lot of people are building entire businesses right now around these things. Plus, they're really easy to build, especially for beginners. Now, you would think that you would need like a planer and a joiner to do this, when it is really handy to have those tools. But you don't need all that junk. Let me show you 2 videos right now where I built some nice looking cutting boards with just simple basic woodworking tools. In this first video, I built this cutting board for my wife for Christmas. I cut out all these pieces using a table saw and a miter saw, glued them together and clamped them. Then I evened out the 2 sides by using an electric hand planer that you can get at Lowe's for about 60 bucks. Maybe you don't have a planer or you don't want to buy one. You could build this cutting board with just a table saw and a miter saw. If you haven't seen this video, you're in for a real treat. And while this cutting board isn't a really complicated design, it is cool because you can build it without using a planer. I think you'll be really interested to see how this thing goes together. And the way I cut this handle out is pretty cool too, because it keeps you from sanding as much. And let's all agree on something, ain't nobody likes sanding. By the way, if you do start making good money selling cutting boards, if you start making the really big ones, we can't be friends anymore if you call those charcuterie boards. They have to be called really big cutting boards, because that's just normal. We don't call things weird names. Another thing that's sold really well for me are bar stools. I don't know why, they're really simple, and it might seem like peasants' work, but they sell like hotcakes for me. I built these bar stools in one of my very first videos on YouTube, and while they're a really simple design, they're still really popular for some reason. The main ingredients for these bar stools are a 2x10 and 2x3s. That makes these things super cheap to make. And that means you can make more money on them. And who doesn't like doing that? In addition to that, these things go together pretty fast, which means you can build a lot of them in a short amount of time. For an added bonus, sell these in sets of 2, 4, or 6. And if you can build a bar height table to go with them, that's even better. Speaking of bar height, that brings me to another top seller for me, and that's high chairs, also known as the bar height chairs. These things are a lot of fun to make, and they're really not that complicated. Probably the hardest part is that back chair leg and the chair back. Once you get that figured out, the rest is pretty easy sailing. But in this video, I walk you through all the steps you need to make in order to build these chairs. And once you get them built, these things sell super fast. Next we have one of my most requested items, and that's the dresser. Now don't be intimidated by these guys. They're really not that complicated. They can be kind of time consuming, but they're not hard to build. Probably about the hardest thing about dressers is getting the drawers to work correctly. The key in doing this is making sure that everything is square and all your measurements are perfect. But check this dresser out. I built this one a few months ago, and in this video I show you step by step how to build this really simple dresser, and the drawers go together so easily. This is a little bit of a time-consuming project, but if you have just basic woodworking skills and tools, you can build this thing. And you don't have to paint it like I did. You could also stain this thing and it would still look great. The next thing that sells really well for me are nightstand sets. Now I got so busy that I didn't have a chance to make a video on these, and to be honest, some of my older nightstand videos aren't the greatest. But here's a nice little nightstand build I found on YouTube. This thing looks really nice, and it's made by John's DIY. In this video, he does a really good job of explaining each step he took in order to build one of these things. And he did such a good job of explaining it that I'm pretty sure I could build one of these in my sleep now. I'm already pretty good at sawing logs, according to my wife that is. I think this thing would also look pretty good without the cross hatching on the sides. Now, one word of warning about nightstands though is that you always want to build them in pairs. And while these things are really popular, I've found that not many people want to buy individual nightstands. Another thing that sold really well for me has been sofa tables. And while this design sold pretty fast for me, I really like a design put out by 731 Woodworks. His design is a really simple table and it looks really good.
Matt also does a really good job of explaining all the different stuff he does in order to build one of these things. He makes it look so easy. I think it's about time for me to build another sofa table. I mean, they sell fast enough, and I think the reason why they do is because they can be used for a lot of different things. You can use them for TV stands, sofa tables, side tables, and all kinds of different stuff.
And now, time for my best-selling woodworking project. Do you know what it is?
If you said dining room chairs, you're absolutely right. Since my second video, I've actually built quite a few of these things. And it still surprises me sometimes how popular they are. And while these are a little bit time consuming, I promise you they sell. Now, I've got two videos for you if you want to try both of these out. One is a little bit simpler design, which is similar to the style of chairs that I'm building now. And the other is my original chair video, which is still being built by a lot of different people. If you'd like to try your hand at any one of these projects I just mentioned, be sure to check out the description below. That's where you'll find links to each one of these videos that we just talked about.
Hey, thanks for joining me today here on DIY Man. If you enjoyed this video, would you click that like button for me? Also, be sure to check out this video right here. We'll see you next time.